The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council chamber sparkled with the light of 3 suns. Inside, thousands of beings from across the galaxy sat in curved rows that rose like waves toward the ceiling. The air hummed with translation devices and environmental systems, keeping hundreds of different species comfortable. Ambassador James Wright sat perfectly still at the human delegation's table. His weathered face showed no emotion as the council speaker droned on about trade restrictions and military limitations for the newer species. Next to him, Admiral Thomas kept his hands flat on the table, but anyone watching closely would notice his knuckles turning white. Furthermore, the tall, blue-skinned council speaker continued. Humanity must understand that their rapid expansion is causing concern among established members. We propose immediate restrictions on colonial growth, and Wright raised his hand slightly. The speaker paused, antenna twitching in annoyance at the interruption. Point of clarification, Wright said, his voice carrying across the chamber without raising it. Are you suggesting that humans should abandon our already established colonies? Not abandon, Ambassador. Simply transfer administration to more experienced species for proper management. The other human delegate stiffened. Wright nodded once, then stood up. The simple action somehow silenced the entire chamber. Members of the council, he said, looking around the vast room. For 3 years we have attended these sessions. For 3 years we have listened to demands disguised as suggestions. For 3 years we have watched our trade ships undergo random inspections while others pass freely. He paused, letting his words sink in. For 3 years we have negotiated in good faith. The council speaker's color shifted to a deeper blue. Ambassador, if you would please resume your seat. No. The word fell like a stone in still water. Humanity is done negotiating. Wright began collecting his data tablets. Around him, the other human delegates did the same. The council chamber erupted in confused murmurs. This is unprecedented, the speaker declared. No species has ever. That's rather the point, isn't it? Wright looked up, and for the first time, a small smile crossed his face. It wasn't a pleasant expression. You're used to species that need you, that fear you, that can be controlled through economic pressure or military threats. He straightened his jacket. Humanity thanks the council for its time. We will be withdrawing from all current and future negotiations. Good day. The human delegation moved as one toward the chamber's massive doors. The sound of their footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. If you leave this chamber, the speaker called out, his voice shrill, there will be consequences. Wright stopped at the doorway. He turned, and this time his smile reached his eyes. No, he said quietly. There won't be. The doors closed behind them with a soft thud that somehow seemed louder than a slam. Inside the chamber, chaos erupted. Species that had been enemies for millennia turned to each other in confusion and growing concern. The military representative from the Duran Empire, known for their strategic analysis, was already calling for an emergency session. In the corridor outside, Wright's team walked briskly toward their shuttle. No one spoke until they were aboard and lifting off from the council's orbital station. That felt good, Admiral Thomas finally said, loosening his collar. Wright looked out the viewport at the massive station growing smaller behind them. It felt necessary. They never intended to treat us as equals. What happens now, sir? Asked one of the younger delegates. Wright watched as their shuttle approached the human flagship waiting at the edge of the system. Its sleek hull hid weapons that the council hadn't even guessed at. Behind it, cleverly hidden from standard scans, waited hundreds more. Now, Wright said softly, now we show them why humans don't respond well to threats. Send the signal to command. Operation Walkaway is in effect. As the shuttle docked with their ship, the first encoded messages were already racing through subspace toward Earth. Humanity had given diplomacy its chance. The galaxy was about to learn why that had been their best option. In the dimly lit analysis chamber of the Grand Archives, Chief Researcher Reed hunched over his console. Holographic displays filled the air around him. showing centuries of human history. His scales had turned a pale gray from lack of sleep, but he couldn't stop watching. "Another war," he muttered, adding to his notes. "And another, and another." His assistant, hovering nearby, shifted nervously. "Sir, the council wants your preliminary report in 1 hour." Reed waved a clawed hand dismissively. "Look at this pattern. Every time they faced extinction, they didn't just survive. They leaped forward. The atomic age, spaceflight, quantum computing, all born from conflict. The displays showed Earth's history like a brutal slideshow. Armies clashing across continents, cities burning, and then, inevitably, remarkable advances emerging from the ashes. What's most disturbing," Reed continued, "is what happened after they unified. When they reached the stars, they didn't stop developing weapons. They just got better at hiding them." He pulled up recent scanning data from human space. "See these energy readings? We thought they were normal civilian power signatures, but compare them to their military installations during what they called World War I." The assistant's eyes widened. "They're weapons factories. Thousands of them, hidden in plain sight." Reed leaned back, his chair creaking. "We've been so blind." The chamber's door slid open. A military intelligence officer stepped in, her uniform bearing the marks of the council's highest security clearance. "Tell me you have something useful," she demanded. Reed nodded slowly. "I found their weakness." He paused. "They don't have one." "Don't be absurd. Every species has weaknesses." "That's just it," Reed said, pulling up more data. "Humans don't think like we do. When they find a weakness, they don't accept it. They eliminate it. Look at their medical history. Disease. They created vaccines. Physical limitations. Cybernetic enhancements. Space radiation. They'd redesign their own genes." The officer frowned. "But surely their limited lifespan is driving them to achieve more faster," Reed cut in. "They don't see limitations as permanent. And there's something else." He brought up linguistic data, a concept they call total war. The translation matrix struggled with the term, but the meaning became clear as Reed explained. Most species wage war with armies. Humans? They wage war with everything they have. Industries, economies, civilian populations, all become part of their war machine. Surely they wouldn't. They already have. Multiple times. Reed's scales darkened with stress, and each time they got better at it. The officer studied the data in silence. "Why didn't we see this before?" "Because they let us see what we expected to see." Reed brought up diplomatic records. "We thought they were just another young, ambitious species, but look at their negotiation patterns. They weren't trying to get the best terms. They were studying us, learning our capabilities, our weaknesses." A priority alert flashed across all screens. The officer opened it, then went still. "3 of our deep space monitoring stations just went dark," she said quietly. "No distress signals. No signs of attack. They just stopped transmitting." Reed nodded grimly. "It's starting. They're not hiding anymore. How do we stop them? That's the real problem." Reed pulled up his final analysis. In their history, every time someone had overwhelming force against them, humans didn't surrender. They got creative, fought dirty, changed the rules of engagement. He looked up at the officer. And they always found a way to win. The officer's communicator buzzed. More alerts, more stations going silent. "What do you recommend?" she asked, her voice tense. Reed looked at the display showing Earth's history of warfare, innovation, and relentless advancement. "Pray," he said simply. "Pray they remember mercy. Because if humanity has decided we're their enemies." He let the thought hang in the air. In the silence that followed, another alert flashed. Then another, and another. The humans weren't just walking away. They were getting ready. The trading port on New Mars was unusually busy for the third cycle. Merchant Jack Miller watched from his office window as hundreds of civilian ships lifted off in perfect sequence. To anyone else, it might have looked like normal traffic, but Miller knew better. These weren't regular cargo runs. These were evacuations, disguised as routine commerce. His computer pinged with another set of coordinates from command. Miller entered them into the automated traffic control system, ensuring each ship would take a different route. Some would appear to head to normal trade destinations. Others would seemingly wander off course. All would eventually reach their real destination, hidden human space. "Sir," his assistant called from the doorway, "the alien trade delegation is here early. They're asking about the increased shipping activity." Miller nodded, his face carefully neutral. "Tell them it's a holiday rush. Religious festival back on Earth always causes a surge in trade." As his assistant left, Miller checked his private terminal. The real manifests showed the truth: essential machinery, construction materials, and crucial resources being methodically relocated. The public manifest, however, showed only consumer goods and regular supplies. On his wall screen, he watched a massive cargo ship rise smoothly into the orange Martian sky. Its holds weren't filled with the listed agricultural supplies. Instead, it carried 3 partially assembled warship cores, their energy signatures masked by clever engineering. His comm unit crackled. "Port control, this is Industrial Complex 7. Requesting emergency clearance for 12 heavy lifters." "Granted," Miller replied, adding them to the carefully orchestrated dance of ships above. More machinery being moved, more preparations being made. A small alert flashed on his screen. An alien observation ship was approaching the outer system, right on schedule. Miller pressed a button, and pre-programmed signals went out to all ships in the area. Like a well-rehearsed ballet, civilian vessels adjusted their courses slightly. Mining ships moved to perfectly normal positions that just happened to block key scanning angles. Maintenance drones drifted into patterns that created sensor interference. His computer showed the alien ship scans bouncing harmlessly off the orchestrated chaos of normal port traffic. "Sir," his assistant was back. "The trade delegation is insisting on touring the loading docks." Miller smiled. "Of course. Show them loading bay 12 through 16. Those are running exactly as their manifests show. The other 40 loading bays, temporarily hidden behind maintenance shutdowns and safety inspections, continued their real work unobserved." His personal comm buzzed, a private channel from Earth Command. "Status report," a voice said simply. "Phase 3 proceeding as planned," Miller replied. 87% of critical infrastructure successfully relocated. Civilian evacuations at 62% and accelerating. No signs that our friends have noticed anything unusual. "Excellent. You understand that after today, there's no going back." Miller looked out at the steady stream of ships rising into space, at the carefully maintained illusion of normal commerce hiding humanity's greatest mobilization. "We passed the point of no return the moment they threatened our colonies," he said quietly. "They just don't know it yet." The line clicked off. Miller turned back to his work, directing the intricate dance of ships and cargo and hidden purpose. Each vessel that lifted off carried a piece of humanity's response to the Council's threats. Each carefully planned flight path was another thread in a web of preparation that spanned human space. On his screen, another alert flashed. The alien trade delegation had finished their tour, completely satisfied that nothing unusual was happening. They'd seen exactly what humanity wanted them to see. Miller allowed himself a small smile as he authorized another wave of launches. The aliens thought they were dealing with simple traders and colonists. They were about to learn that every human, from dock workers to merchants, knew how to become something else entirely when needed. Above New Mars, the ships kept rising, carrying humanity's future into the darkness between the stars. Silent, purposeful, ready. The galaxy wasn't ready for what was coming. But then, that was rather the point. General Robert paced the length of Earth's primary defense command center, his footsteps echoing against metal floors. The holographic display in the center of the room showed thousands of red dots, alien observation posts and spy satellites, winking out one by one. "Status report," he barked, watching another cluster of red lights fade. "Operation Blackout proceeding ahead of schedule, sir," Lieutenant Mark replied from his station. "Our new stealth drones are eliminating all surveillance equipment in human space. No casualties, no traces." Robert nodded. The aliens would find only empty space where their expensive spy networks had been. No debris, no evidence of attack, just silence. On another screen, construction feeds showed massive orbital platforms around Earth being upgraded. To foreign observers, it looked like routine maintenance. In reality, each platform was receiving classified weapons systems that had been developed in secret for decades. "Sir," a communications officer called out, "we're getting panicked transmissions from alien diplomatic channels. They're demanding to know what happened to their monitoring stations." "Send the standard response," Robert ordered. "Technical difficulties, solar interference, the usual excuses." The massive screen shifted to show a new alert. An alien military vessel had crossed into the outer edges of the solar system. "They're testing us," Robert muttered. He turned to his weapons officer. "Show them our new toys." High above Earth, a seemingly ordinary communications satellite rotated slightly. A pulse of energy, invisible to conventional sensors, reached out across space. The alien ship's engine suddenly died, leaving it drifting. "Power systems only," Robert ordered. "Let them limp home. Let them wonder." Reports kept flowing in. Across human space, carefully hidden defense systems were coming online. Planetary shields, previously disguised as atmosphere processors, hummed to life. Weapon platforms, masked as mining operations, powered up their targeting systems. "Message from Fleet Command," an officer announced. "The new ships are ready." Robert allowed himself a grim smile. The aliens thought they knew human military capabilities. They'd seen the ships humanity had allowed them to see. Adequate but unremarkable vessels that posed no threat to the galaxy's major powers. They hadn't seen what was emerging from hidden shipyards in classified systems. Ships built with technologies humanity had kept secret. Weapons developed but never revealed. "Sir," Mark called out, "the Council's military attaché is demanding an emergency meeting. They're claiming our defense platform upgrades violate 3 different treaties." "Remind them," Robert said coldly, "that we're no longer bound by those treaties. As of the moment our delegation walked out, all previous agreements are void." The main display shifted again, showing a massive alien fleet gathering at the edge of Council space. A show of force meant to intimidate. Robert watched it with calm eyes. He knew something they didn't. Just beyond their sensors range, hidden behind sophisticated stealth fields, waited humanity's real fleet. Not the outdated ships they'd been showing the galaxy, but the true extent of human military power. "They're scanning our orbital defenses," an officer reported. "Should we maintain the passive facade?" Robert checked the time. The evacuation of civilian populations was nearly complete. The hidden fleets were in position. The new defense systems were ready. "No," he said quietly. "Let them see." It's time they understood what they're dealing with. Around Earth, the orbital platforms dropped their camouflage protocols. Weapon systems previously hidden now stood revealed. Defense screens flickered into visible existence, and in high orbit, the first of the new ships dropped their stealth fields. The alien fleet recoiled. Their sensors must be overwhelming them with data about technology they hadn't known humans possessed. "Sir," Mark said, his voice tense with excitement, "they're retreating." Robert nodded. They finally realize they're not facing some primitive species they can bully. "Send word to all commands. Operation Revelation is now active." Across human space, decades of preparation were coming to fruition. The galaxy had wanted to keep humanity contained, controlled, obedient. Instead, they were about to learn why humans were never good at following other people's rules. The warning signs were clear. The galaxy just hadn't been ready to read them. In the Council's massive intelligence center, First Analyst Mark led a group of stunned alien dignitaries through holographic displays of newly discovered human shipyards. The images showed vast construction facilities hidden in asteroid belts, gas giant rings, and artificial pocket dimensions. As you can see, he said, pointing to the endless rows of advanced warships, we've greatly underestimated their capabilities. A high-ranking council member, his scales turning pale, stepped forward. How many ships are we looking at? Our current estimates suggest over 50,000 capital ships, Mark replied. And that's just what we've found in the last hour. The room fell silent. 50,000 ships would make the human fleet larger than all other galactic powers combined. And they were still finding more. Impossible, another council member whispered. Their economy couldn't support this level of military production. Mark brought up new data streams. That's where we were wrong. Their civilian industries, their mining operations, their research facilities, they were all military installations in disguise. Every trade ship could be converted to a warship. Every mining laser could become a weapon. The displays showed more revelations. Human colonies that appeared primitive on the surface had massive underground military complexes. Peaceful research stations housed weapon laboratories. Everything had a double purpose, hidden in plain sight. New data incoming, an aide announced. We've detected energy signatures from their fleet. Sir, these readings can't be right. Mark checked the numbers and felt his blood run cold. Their ships are powered by contained artificial singularities. Technology we thought was centuries away from being practical. Why reveal all this now? The military advisor asked. Why show their hand? Because they don't need to hide anymore, Mark said quietly. Look at this tactical analysis. The main display showed a map of known space. Red dots represented Council military assets. Blue dots showed confirmed human military presence. As they watched, more blue dots appeared as hidden bases and fleets revealed themselves. They're not just in their territory, someone gasped. They're already behind our lines, inside our defense perimeters. Mark nodded grimly. Every human trade mission included military scouts. Every diplomatic visit mapped our defenses. They've been preparing for this moment for decades. New alerts flashed across the screens. More human ships appearing. More bases revealing themselves. Each one demonstrating technology that should have been impossible for such a young species. Sir, an aide called out, we're detecting massive energy buildups in human space. The tactical displays showed it clearly. Every human world, colony, and station was activating defense systems that dwarfed anything the Council possessed. Shields that could withstand supernovas, weapons that could reshape solar systems. They were never militarily inferior, Mark realized aloud. Everything we saw, everything we thought we knew about their capabilities, was what they wanted us to see. The Council members watched in horror as more data poured in. Human ships using drive systems that bent space itself. Weapons that could target ships through subspace. Defense systems that made their worlds virtually invulnerable. New transmission from Earth Command, an operator announced. The room fell silent as the message appeared. To the Galactic Council. For years, you assumed our cooperation was based on weakness. You thought we negotiated because we had to. Now you understand. We negotiated because we chose to. We gave you the chance to treat us as equals. You chose threats instead. What happens next is your responsibility. Mark looked at the stunned faces around him. They weren't building up to match our power, he said softly. They were holding back to give diplomacy a chance. On the displays, more human ships emerged from stealth. More bases revealed their true nature. More weapons came online. The galaxy had wanted to keep humanity in check. Instead, they had pushed them to reveal their true strength. And now, everyone understood why humans had been so calm when they walked away from negotiations. They had never needed them in the first place. The Grand Council chamber, Once a place of order and control had descended into chaos. Representatives from 100 species argued, threatened, and pleaded as reports of human military power continued to flood in. "We must strike first," shouted the military commander of the Stellar Empire, pounding his armored fist on the podium. "Before they can fully deploy." "Strike where?" asked Ambassador Miller, the only human still present in the chamber. He hadn't been invited. He had simply walked in and had taken his seat. No one dared remove him. "You don't even know where our real bases are." The chamber fell silent. Miller's calm voice somehow carried more weight than the commander's shouts. "The humans must be stopped," the council speaker declared, trying to maintain authority. "We have military treaties with 30 species. Combined, we can." "You can what?" Miller interrupted, standing slowly. "Launch attacks from the bases we've already infiltrated. Use the weapons we've already compromised. Call in fleets that would have to pass through sectors we already control." On the chamber's main display, tactical maps showed human forces appearing everywhere at once. Military formations that shouldn't have been possible. Ships emerging from stealth in system after system. "This is illegal," the speaker protested. "These deployments violate your laws," Miller cut in. "Not ours. We walked away from your rules, remember." A junior aide rushed into the chamber, whispering urgently to the speaker. The alien's color shifted to pale gray. "We're receiving reports," the speaker announced, voice shaking. "Human forces have disabled the combined fleets of 3 major powers. No casualties, no destruction. They just turned everything off." Miller nodded. "A demonstration. We could have destroyed those ships. Instead, they'll drift safely until their backup power restores main systems. Consider it a warning." "What do you want?" asked a previously silent representative from an elder race. "Why reveal all this now?" Miller's expression remained neutral. "We wanted peace, fair trade, mutual respect. Instead, you tried to control us, restrict us, threaten us." He paused. "Now you understand why that was a mistake." The chamber's displays showed more human ships appearing, more bases revealing themselves, each demonstration of power causing fresh waves of panic. "You can't just reshape the galaxy's power structure," the military commander protested. "There are rules, traditions." "We're not reshaping anything," Miller said calmly. "We're simply showing you the reality that already existed. You just couldn't see it." New alerts flashed across the screens. Human forces had secured key strategic positions throughout known space. Not through violence. They had simply appeared and taken control, as if they had been there all along. Perhaps they had been. "What happens now?" the speaker asked, all pretense of authority gone. Miller sat back down, his movements unhurried. "Now you understand why we walked away from negotiations. We weren't avoiding conflict. We were giving you one last chance to avoid it. By surrendering to human authority." Someone called out. "No," Miller replied. "By accepting that the galaxy's balance of power isn't what you thought it was. We don't want to rule. We just won't be ruled." The chamber erupted in urgent discussions. Species that had been enemies for millennia found themselves united in fear of this new power. "You have one standard day," Miller announced, standing to leave. "Recognize humanity's sovereign rights and independence, or discover exactly why our history made us so good at warfare." He walked toward the exit, then paused. "Oh, and one more thing. Those fleets we disabled. Their systems will restart in exactly 1 hour. Consider it a gesture of good faith." The massive doors closed behind him, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. The galaxy's powers had wanted to contain humanity, to keep them controlled and compliant. Instead, they had forced humanity to reveal just how outmatched they had been all along. Now they had to choose: accept a new reality, or learn firsthand why humans had always been so confident in their position. The response, everyone knew, would reshape galactic history. The only question was how much it would cost to learn that lesson. The ancient Hall of Treaties, built 10,000 years ago, had never seen a gathering like this. Representatives from every spacefaring species sat in tense silence as Admiral Robert walked to the center podium. No weapons were drawn, but everyone knew they weren't needed. Human power had already been demonstrated beyond doubt. "The terms are simple," Robert began, his voice carrying across the vast chamber. "Humanity will not interfere with internal affairs of any species. In return, there will be no more attempts to control human expansion or development." The council speaker, now serving only as a witness rather than an authority, spoke up. "And if we refuse?" "You won't," Robert replied simply. "Because we're offering something you've never had. True independence. No more political games. No more economic manipulation. Every species free to develop at their own pace." Holographic displays showed the new galactic map. Human forces had positioned themselves at key strategic points, but notably absent were any signs of occupation or control. "We're not conquerors," Robert continued. "We're not interested in empire. We simply want what we've always wanted, the freedom to pursue our own path." An elder race representative stood. "And what guarantees do we have that humans won't abuse their power?" Robert smiled. "The same guarantee we've always offered, mutual respect. We hidden our true strength for decades, not out of fear, but hope. Hope that the galaxy could accept us as equals without forcing us to demonstrate our power." The displays shifted, showing human ships withdrawing from non-strategic positions, returning control of systems to their original owners. But everyone knew they could return in an instant if needed. "Your choice is simple," Robert said. "Accept a galaxy where each species determines its own destiny, or continue the old system of control and dominance. The only difference is that now you know the true cost of choosing wrongly." A younger species delegate spoke up. "But what's to prevent chaos? Without the Council's authority?" "Authority," Robert interrupted. "Or control. There's a difference. We're not dismantling the Council. We're transforming it. From a tool of control to a forum for genuine cooperation." New data appeared on the screens. Trade routes reopening, scientific cooperation initiatives, cultural exchange programs, all voluntary, all free from political manipulation. "Humanity offers 3 things," Robert continued. "First, guaranteed independence for all species who respect the same right in others. Second, protection against any attempt to restore the old system of control. Third, open access to some, not all, of our technological advances." The chamber buzzed with surprise murmurs. Technology sharing had been strictly controlled under the old regime. "In return, we require only this: recognition of every species' right to determine their own path, as long as they don't threaten others. Simple, clear, non-negotiable." One by one, representatives began to signal agreement, not out of fear, though that played a part, but out of recognition. Humanity had shown them a new way: strength without domination, power without control. "The age of empires is over," Robert declared. "The age of true independence begins. Choose wisely." The final vote was unanimous, not because humanity demanded it, but because they had shown a better path. As the formal treaties were recorded, Robert looked out over the assembled species. They had feared humanity would become what they themselves had been: controllers, dominators, rulers. Instead, humans had become what the galaxy needed: protectors of independence, guarantors of freedom. In the end, walking away from negotiations hadn't been about power. It had been about showing the galaxy a truth they had forgotten: that true strength lies not in controlling others, but in ensuring everyone's right to control their own destiny. The new order was established not by conquest, but by choice, and that, perhaps, was humanity's greatest victory of all. As the session ended, Robert smiled. They had finally achieved what they'd wanted all along: not dominion over the galaxy, but a galaxy where no one would ever again need to dominate others. The humans had walked away from negotiations to create something better than victory. They had created peace.